Irwin Belk might well be considered UNC Charlotte's godfather. He is a larger-than-life Renaissance man who has lived an intriguing life as an athlete, sportsman, businessman, statesman, and philanthropist. It is his gregarious and generous spirit that has endeared him to so many. His gifts to colleges and universities are now legendary, especially at UNC Charlotte.
I was at Wilmington last summer on vacation with my wife, and we were just checking into the hotel and my cell phone rings. And Ike says, and I know I'm in trouble when he starts this week, he says, "Chancellor, I got a great idea." And I said, "What is it?" And he says, "Can you meet me in an hour on campus in front of Robinson Hall?" And I said, "No, Ike, I'm in Wilmington." He says, "Well, I want you to meet me in an hour. I'll see you there." And of course, I couldn't meet him, so I called Laura Simic and the department heads in Robinson Hall, and he wanted to bring a sculptor out, a friend of his from Switzerland, to talk about putting a water harp in front of Robinson Hall that would define Robinson Hall. And it was a great idea, and 6 months later, bam, we had the water harp.
Born into wealth in 1922, Belk, nicknamed Ike by boyhood friends, did not grow up knowing special privileges. His father and mother, William Henry Belk and Mary Irwin Belk, made sure Ike and his 4 brothers and his sister hewed to a life of hard work and religious observation. Service for the greater good became a hallmark of Ike's life.
He's a kind person. He's a big-hearted person. He truly does so many things for other people. Ike never wants the credit for the things that he does.
During military boarding school at Macaulay in Chattanooga, Ike discovered his talent for middle-distance running. Thus began a lifelong interest in sports, especially track. That interest would translate into immense support for track and field, from middle schools to several universities, all the way to the U.S. Olympic Committee.
And Ike has been a great friend over the years. He has been the most generous individual in the history of the United States Olympic Committee and perhaps the world. He has contributed significantly to the growth and development of America's athletes through his generosity.
After serving in the military during World War II, Ike married Carol Grotness and began a family that would include 4 children. Many observers say that wooing Carol was the best deal he ever made. Ike grew into a success in his own right as a family man, business leader, public servant, and benefactor. In business, he made many fortunes, largely on shrewd real estate investments and his mastery of finance. He was trained at his daddy's knee to be a smart investor. He started working in the family business as a clerk, as president of Belk Finance Company, and an officer and director of the Belk Group of Stores. Ike was in charge of real estate, finance, and investments.
Well, there's an interesting story about Ike when he was serving on the board of directors at First Union National Bank. And Ike stood up in that board meeting and said, "I'm going to buy a huge amount of First Union stock because I believe this is a good company," and urged the other directors to do the same. Well, in retrospect, Ike did a great thing for himself and others as well, and the company particularly, but of course the company went on to be very successful, and it's now Wachovia Corporation. But that's the kind of person Ike is. When he believes in something, he stands up and he lets other people know of his commitment, his loyalty, his dedication to a particular company or organization.
Ike's achievements extend into politics, where he scored major successes for the state and for UNC Charlotte. He is the only person to ever serve in both houses of the state legislature at the same time, when he, as a representative, was appointed to temporarily fill the seat of a retiring senator.
He was in the Senate when he introduced the bill that saw us become the 4th campus of the University of North Carolina, and that was over 40 years ago. And Ike Belk is still involved with this institution today.
I think any student of history writing about the 20th century in Charlotte, Mecklenburg, or North Carolina would clearly say that the most important thing that happened in Mecklenburg County in the last half of the 20th century was the building of the university's campus there. He shepherded that legislation personally, got every vote, I think, except one. But it was a very proud day for him and for the county and for the university itself.
According to Belk, his second greatest achievement occurred when he was the public delegate to the United Nations. He arranged for U.S. Senator Jesse Helms then chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, to address the United Nations Security Council. It was the first time in history that any member of a legislative body in the world had done so.
I watched this good old boy come up and have the entire United Nations eating out of his hand. With 85 or 90 ambassadors to the United Nations representing 85 or 90 countries come to a dinner to honor this fella, that he got Jesse Helms to put on a hat that said United Nations, and Jesse standing up cheering the United Nations, and this guy with that Cheshire grin on his face, and I was reading your mind thinking, we have done it. You've done this country a great service.
Ike brokered a deal that reduced the dues that the United States pays to the UN, thus saving American taxpayers $175 million that year and every year since. Belk has championed a long list of causes, foremost among them the American Cancer Society and the U.S. Olympic Committee. During a 40-year association, he has served as president of the American Cancer Society Foundation and as an ACS board member. Ike's philanthropic interest in the Olympics began when he attended the 1936 Games in Berlin. Later, with his close friend, the late Jim Millis, Ike attended the 1960 Olympic Games. He's attended every Olympics since then and has served on the United States Olympic Committee for more than 45 years. On the committee, he established a long-lasting friendship with its president, Dr. Leroy Walker of North Carolina Central University.
One of the things that I think was to an advantage of my being president of the Olympic Committee was to have a person like Ike on the board. He had a great sense of timing. He had a great sense of urgency. And that was one thing in the Olympic movement, when you are always dealing with other countries with different philosophies of life, different ways that they like to do things, trying to get those coordinated so it becomes a single effort. I think that was one of the great contributions he made.
In support of the Olympic Games and athletics in general, Ike established the Irwin Belk Educational Foundation. He's such a staunch supporter that he commissioned an enormous bronze sculpture for the International Olympic Committee headquarters in Lucerne, Switzerland, and a smaller version at the United States Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs.
I had to remind them occasionally, and my staff during my time as president, there's a person that you may not know, but I want you to know, and his name is Irwin Ike Belk. Write it down and say good things about him every day, because it's his assistance as to why we're doing things as well as we are here.
Outdoor and monumental sculpture have become symbolic of much of Ike Belk's philanthropy. His passion for commissioning sculptures is legendary. He's especially famous for commissioning mascots for various colleges and universities. Most of these mascots are the largest of their kind in the United States and in the world.
Our mascot is a lion, and so it took a lot of research to even determine what the largest lion in the world was and where it was. And turns out it's in Trafalgar Square in London. Well, they were the largest lions in the world. The largest lion in the world now is in a studio in Cornelius, being finished by the sculptor John Hare, and will be delivered to our sports complex. So Queens is soon to own the largest lion in the world.
At UNC Charlotte, Ike's sculptures adorn all sorts of facilities, from the Irwin Belk track to the Barnhart Student Activity Center to the Robinson Hall for the Performing Arts.
When people come to this campus, all they have to do is look around. We have statues for every sport that we have. He is always thinking about how to make other things better or other places better. Ike has been very generous to our athletic program, and he made a large gift that allowed us to build our Irwin Belk track and field facility. And he came to show it to some folks from out of town one day, and we had given him a shirt as part of a thank you. That wasn't the only thing we gave him, but part of a thank you, and it was a Charlotte 49ers shirt. And he saw a young man that had on a similar shirt with our logo on it, and he stopped the young man, a student, and he said, "Son, how much did you pay for that shirt?" And the young man said, I think it was around $30 or $40. He said, "You got a bargain. I paid $1.25 million for mine."
Ike's gifts to UNC Charlotte include those that are less tangible but incredibly valuable.
Ike was critical in the transition of UNC Charlotte to a doctoral granting institution. He had been on the Board of Governors for a number of years, was the only member of the Board of Governors when I came in 1989, and then stepped up very early to endow chairs that let us go out and recruit superb faculty. So I would say long-term, Ike's impact on the academic life of this campus will be his greatest legacy.
Belk donated funds to establish the Irwin Belk Endowed Chair in Biology at UNC Charlotte. The gift enabled the university to hire Dr. Ken Bost, one of the best immunology scientists in the world. Dr. Bost was this year's recipient of the First Citizens Bank Scholars Medal, an annual award given to an outstanding researcher.
I think it's pretty safe to say that I would not be here now, back in the state of North Carolina, from whence I came, if it wasn't for the endowment that I gave to the university and funded the position that I have now. He not only invested in the university, but how did he use his money? He used his money to invest in an individual to come here. In fact, I'm presently chairing a search committee for the Ike Belk Distinguished Professor in Cancer Research. So he's not only funded my position, but he's funding an additional position.
One of Ike's more recent gifts established the Carol Grotness Belk Endowed Chair in Nursing. It will enable UNC Charlotte to help address the critical shortage of nurses. Ike has also endowed a chair in health research, bringing the total of his endowed chairs to 4. Ike retired from UNC Charlotte's Board of Trustees in 2006, capping more than 4 decades of service to the university.
So Ike's contribution to UNC Charlotte has been in athletics, it's been in academics, it's been in student life, you name it, and Ike Belk's hand is still being felt there.
Not by intent, but by the fruit of his good works, Ike has cultivated a legacy of dynamic leadership and magnanimous philanthropy. While Ike's imprint on UNC Charlotte is massive, the breadth of his deeds has unfolded regionally, nationally, and even internationally. He has influenced countless people and is still cultivating a legacy that will be felt for generations.
I think the most important thing you can say about Ike is that he's been a good example for others. When they see that what he's done with his resources to build this university and this community, that inspires others to think about doing the same.
It's the caring for other people that makes Ike so special. Again, he's not someone who wants you to know that he cares so much about other people, and he certainly doesn't want you to know everything he does for other people, but he's a kind-hearted person who does care about other people and will do anything to make other people's lives better.